What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. As always, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out of your days to be here. It means the absolute world to me and to this channel and community. To see you in Discord, on Twitter, and everywhere, showing that fan art and things like that has been absolutely incredible, and I will be getting some of that fan art into a video very soon. And with that being said, let's get on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for how I handled a student's inappropriate comment in my class? I teach undergrads. Recently they've been given in-class presentations as the conclusion to a semester-long research project. Yesterday, one girl got up and was about to begin speaking. A boy loudly blurted out, "Holy shit, those tits are huge." Yeah, record scratch. Once I recovered from a moment of, did that really just happen, I immediately said to him, "Why would you ever say something like that? That's completely unacceptable. You need to apologise and leave for the rest of the period." Which he then did, and there was no further issue from him. I feel like I handled this as well as I could have. I've never had an overtly disruptive student before. I've had ones who don't do the work, but the worst they do during class is just texting under the table. I was totally taken back, and so was the rest of the class. I heard a few whispers of, "What the fuck?" and giggling. The poor girl looked mortified, and there's no way that's something you can just sweep under the rug as a teacher. Last night I was telling my boyfriend about it. He didn't think I dealt with it well. He started questioning why I had the male student leave the room. His criticisms were that I was treating him like a child and publicly embarrassing him, when I countered that the female student was the one publicly embarrassed, and I wasn't going to make her go on to present with someone who just harassed her in the audience. He said, "Oh Jesus, not everything is harassment. Yeah, it was horrible timing, but guys his age are still awkward and making mistakes." I did not agree with it at all. He was completely missing the point. I started feeling like he thought what the male student did was okay. He said that he didn't think it was, but that young men need to be able to make mistakes without a woman crucifying them for it. The whole argument was ridiculous to me. It's not like I gave him an F or personally expelled him from the school. We're explicitly trained to have disruptive students leave the room if they cross a line, and this college is not high school. There are higher expectations for behaviour. I clearly explained to my boyfriend that the comment was apropos of nothing. It was not a private joke between friends. The girl's chest was not exposed at all, and there is no situation in the classroom where making a sexual remark about someone else is acceptable, ever, let alone when it humiliates them right before they're about to be everyone's centre of attention. I ended up just dropping it because he wasn't listening. Now thinking more about it, it's bothering me. Wasn't I an arsehole to the student? So your boyfriend very much went down the route of boys will be boys, which we generally crucify on this channel time and time again because we do know it's just not acceptable. And imagine being that girl in that situation where she's just about to give a presentation to the whole class and she stands up at the front and then someone shouts that out to her. There's no way you could continue knowing, you know, people are going to be focusing now, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I wouldn't blame OP if they even took this further, if they suspended them for a week or more, you know, it just, you can't get away with that kind of behaviour anymore. It's just so stupid. And your boyfriend saying that this is something boys should be able to learn, like, surely we should be learning this before we get to that point of shouting someone out. That, you know, it's not acceptable to talk in that way to someone. It's not that hard really, is it? But let's have a look at some of the comments below to see what they say. Angela Evans says, "Not the arsehole, Jesus H. Your boyfriend sounds misogynistic and very much like boys will be boys." That student was 100% harassing that girl with that comment. He objectified and embarrassed her. I think you handled the situation the right way. The only thing I might have done differently is discreetly pull the girl aside and make sure she was okay. Just to be extra nice. Poor girl. It wasn't just terrible timing, it was completely unnecessary, inappropriate and disrespectful comment. No offense to you, but your boyfriend sounds like a sexist jerk. Real Canadian Trash says, "Not the arsehole and your boyfriend fucking sucks." LA Kings of Metal says, "Not the arsehole. The male student is lucky you didn't report him to the dean's office or whatever you may have there, especially if your school has a code of conduct. And your boyfriend is concerning that he doesn't see what's wrong with this in any situation, let alone in a fucking classroom." Yellow 5 Red 40 says, "Not the arsehole, so what? Girls have to put up being sexually harassed in public because boys will be boys. Get the fuck out with that shit." Now, What do you guys think of this story? How would you have handled it if you was OP? Do you think OP did the right thing, or do you think they should have went further with their punishment? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for losing it when my husband called CPS on my sister? My female 33 sister, female 28, is a single mother with 2 kids, aged 7 and 4. Ever since her ex left, I did everything I could to help out with the kids, like watching them a few times a week while she works, and coming over to her house to help to get things done, like fixing stuff and cleaning. My husband voluntarily took part as well, and he'd go over to help with a few things. He said he wanted and was happy to help. No one made him go or even asked him to do any of the things he did. Lately he started complaining whenever my sister brings the kids so I could watch them for a few hours. He'd say that it started affecting our lives, but not going out and meeting with family and friends and having to watch the kids instead. Thing is, he was free to go out and hang out with his friends. I was fine and willing to help with the kids since I work from home and seeing how hard she works. He brought it up again and said that my sister clearly can't handle being a single mother and needed to stop counting on us for help. I thought he was being mean by making those comments. I told him he doesn't have to help if he felt uncomfortable, and he stopped talking about it. Last week he threw a fit when my sister brought the kids so I could watch them for a few hours, and he said that I was being a doormat for my sister and that we weren't obligated to do the hard work for raising her kids for her. He left the house then came home in the evening. The next day I got a call from my sister and she was crying saying someone called CPS on her and that an agent came over to her house for a surprise visit. First she said it might have been her in-laws, but later my husband told me he anonymously called CPS on her because he thought that this would be a wake-up call for her to stop counting on us for help and to step up as a mother. I was absolutely livid. I lost it and yelled at him. He argued that my sister shouldn't be freaking out as long as she had nothing to worry about. But this was huge. The amount of stress she and the kids must have felt, I can't imagine. I have a bad history with CPS when I was young. He did something awful just because he thought she wasn't good enough and needed some type of warning to get her life together. I yelled at him because no matter how he thought, it wasn't a big deal. Calling CPS is huge and just wrong. I was so angry with him I couldn't even talk to my sister after what he did. I talked to her and she was feeling upset and frustrated and shaken up. She doesn't know my husband was the one who made the call and I feel horrible thinking about it. I'm so mad at him despite him apologising for what he did. Just to clarify, I watch the kids 3 times a week, till noon and sometimes from noon till the evening. No more than 6 hours. I'd visit my husband's family during the weekend. That's when I'd usually go out. It's not like I'm neglecting him or anything, so I don't know why he behaves like this. I had no idea, it never occurred to me that I'd do something like this. There's no excuse for this, it's just so awful and unacceptable. Wow, imagine if this guy sees the rest of the whole world, like 80% of all couples who actually need babysitters. You're all getting reported by this guy, believe me. But what an idiot, man. Wasting resources like CPS when there's actual families in need and can do with that help right now, and he's wasting it by calling a family that's not in need, a family that's just trying to pull together to help another family member that's in need at this moment. But let's head over to the comments to see what they say. Luna Strange says not the arsehole. CPS is not there to waste resources that could have been used on families that actually need the help because he is immature. Your husband needs to get his head out from his behind. The Judgernaut says, not the arsehole. It is actually insane that he called CPS because your sister gets you to babysit sometimes. What a horrible experience for your sister and what a waste of CPS's limited resources. Wisteria says not the arsehole by any means. What your husband has done is unforgivable if your sister is not doing anything to put her child in harm's way. CPS isn't going to go to someone's home because someone called and said, hey, my sister-in-law needs a welfare check because she frequently asks me to babysit her kids while she works. He would have had to say some pretty bad things to get them to show up. It's pretty divorce worthy. And Shira Mum says, not the arsehole for being angry and upset. He was wrong to call CPS unless he suspected abuse or neglect. That being said, the arsehole for not listening to and communicating with your husband when he attempted to tell you that the time for that amount of help for your sister needed to come to an end. Your response was, we need to talk about this and set aside some time where I can say no to watching the kids, or let's set a schedule and the kids will only be over during those times. It was, oh well, do what you want but I'm watching the kids. Lack of communication ultimately led him to making a really stupid decision and seemingly misusing CPS. Now, I turn it to you guys. Who do you think is the arsehole in this story? Do you think, like the last comment, OP is for the lack of communication, or do you think it's all on the husband for calling CPS and misusing the service? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story comes from Living with Dad. Am I the arsehole for telling my dad I'll stop living with him if he keeps making me uncomfortable at his house? I'm 16 male, and when I was 7 my mum passed away. My dad wasn't doing good with money, so he split custody with my aunt since she was also my godmother. I spent most days with my aunt, then a couple of days with my dad because his work had him on the road a lot. 2 years ago my dad came out and it was weird as fuck, not gonna lie, but I got over it after months. He hasn't dated anyone that I know of, like only one guy, but it was less than 6 months. Last year he got a better job that keeps him here, so he had me come move in with him. First thing I noticed was that he has guys over like all the time, and I mean multiple guys, 4 to 5, sometimes a week depending on how busy he is. Literally like different guys every single time, and it's always really awkward. They don't know me, I don't know them, and now they are here in the house. My dad told me he's just meeting different guys for fun and not to worry because it's not anything serious, but now I really don't like it. Sometimes my dad leaves early for work and these guys are just left at the house, or they roam around while he's still asleep in his room. There's been times when I'm going to eat breakfast and there's a random in the kitchen with nothing but boxers on. I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable because he doesn't know who these guys are and they all know where he lives. Plus he leaves them alone in the house until they leave on their own. I've talked to my dad before and he says nothing bad's going to happen because he'll protect and he's just having fun. But how's he going to protect me when he's the one leaving the house with me alone, then they're still here? This is something we've talked about a few times, but he still doesn't treat it like a big deal, until I told him the other day if he's going to keep having random people over all the time, then I'm just going to move back in with my aunt. That made my dad sad and angry. He said he thought since it's been years now I'm okay with his sexuality and him finally getting to be this side of himself. I told him it had nothing to do with that and I'd be saying the same if it was random ladies too, because again, they all know where he lives and he leaves them alone. Now he's just not talking to me, being all hurt. I haven't told my aunt any of this yet. He still has guys over, so I don't want to be here anymore, feeling like I've got to tiptoe around the house every night. But I feel bad that this has hurt him, and I don't know if it is right to threaten leaving him, making him think I don't support him. Am I the arsehole? You know, this has nothing to do with his sexuality whatsoever. This is a safety concern. You being worried for your own safety in your own house, and you should absolutely be able to feel like you don't have to worry there. This should be your safe space. This is the whole point. I'm putting myself in OP's shoes, wandering around a house and then suddenly bump into some random person you don't know in your own house. Yeah, that would scare the shit out of me too. And for that to happen multiple times a week, I don't think I'd want to live there either, so I can't blame you at all for this situation. So not the arsehole, but let's have a look at some comments to see if we can find anything else. The Mirror's Truth says, not the arsehole, you have the right to feel safe in your home, and sounds like he doesn't know these men well enough for it to be safe to leave you alone with them. Speak with your aunt ASAP. This has nothing to do with his sexuality and everything to do with his recklessness and endangerment of you. Kama says, not the arsehole. This is a major safety concern. Strangers left in the house with a kid/teenager is an absolute no. Get to your aunts ASAP, please. Feline Truffle says, not the arsehole. Your dad can still find men without putting you at risk. No parent should have multiple people over throughout the week, gay or straight. Studies after studies show that a single household parent who expose their children to multiple partners like this put their children at higher risk of sexual abuse and etc. Big Fat Joint says, you are 100% not the arsehole. Tell your aunt about this immediately. Your dad is extremely irresponsible and putting you in danger by leaving you at home with people he barely knows. And he's downplaying your very valid concerns about this. Just because he came out late in life does not give him an excuse to do this. Now, I turn it to you guys. What would you do in this situation if you was OP? Would you move to the aunt? Would you talk to the dad? How would you raise the concerns about the whole sexuality thing too? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from Mother Child. Am I the arsehole for refusing to make my son follow the rules my sister set? I had my son when I was 15. He's now 6 and I'm 21. We still live with my parents naturally. We recently went back into lockdown in the UK, and my sister and her 6 kids also moved in with us as she's pregnant and her boyfriend kicked her out. My son is autistic and his hyperfixation is sharks. He knows everything about sharks possible, and his reading is immaculate because he spends so much time on his tablet looking at facts. Shark themed, everything possible. My sister has a pretty strict regime for her kids, and they are well behaved and well loved. When she moved in, she put up the rules/routine board, but added my son to it. I told her my son would not be doing any of her chores or following the rules, most of which he can't follow because of his disability. Her kids are notably angry and upset. One of their rules are no devices after 6 PM and none during meal/family time. My son has his tablet almost 24/7, besides his bedtime, and never partakes in family time. It stresses him out and I could deal with fewer meltdowns in a day. My parents stay out of it, they have their own sitting room and the kids are banned. They spend most of their time in there away from the rest of us. My sister is growing angrier because her kids are disruptive, but I think she should just get them under control herself. I'm not changing my son's life that's been adapted to his disability to make her life easier. She's been complaining to our other sisters who are all pretty angry at me. My friends, a few of which who also have disabled children, agree with me, but quite a few of them think I should try and change my son's routine, which I have as much as I can. Am I the arsehole? I think first, personally, that the other children need to be spoken to and say why his chores or his routine's a bit different to theirs, and you know what he's going through with his autism and how he deals with things. I think explaining that would go a long way to solving what's going on here, because the kids clearly just see this as like, this is unfair. He's not doing nothing while we're having to do all the chores and follow this strict regime. But they need to understand and learn that fair isn't exactly, you know, everyone doing exactly the same thing. It's that each child does what is best for them. So one child might be doing a little bit of a harder chore than the other one, because, you know, they're different ages and things like that, and they have different traits and needs. So working around them, and that's what's fair, and that's for the parents to decide. And sure, he may be able to do some of these chores, regardless of what the mum says. He may be able to do some of these, but that's the mum's choice in the end, you know. She's came in and set these specific rules, and it's up to you to choose whether he wants them or not. I don't think the screen time sounds too healthy at all, the way he said 24/7. Obviously, screen time, if it's helping him with like the fixation on sharks and stuff, is absolutely necessary for him, but 24/7, that sounds a bit extreme to me. And I'm someone who sits and looks at a screen much of the day, so I can't talk too much on that. But let's look at some of the comments below to see what they say. Howard Project says, not the arsehole. She has 6 children and you have 1. This is going to require very different skill sets. Your child has special needs, hers are neurotypical. Her children have lost their home, and your child has gone from quiet home with 3 adults to a home shared with 10 other people, 6 of whom are kids. You don't have a problem with anything that she's doing with her children, but she's attempting to parent your child as well. The two of you need to sit down and take a good look hard at these differences and accept and appreciate that the two of you are going to need to continue parenting your own children in your own way. And then you're going to need to brainstorm on how to present a united front on the matter. The two of you will need a group meeting with all 7 children. Explain that you fully support her schedule and her rules for different children, and that she fully supports your schedule and rules for your child. Your sister needs to accept and understand that moving into a family home does not immediately give her the right to take over parenting your child. And Anchovy Man Mac and Cheese says, I'm not going to leave judgment, but I really think you should sit down with a specialist and support staff at your son's school to discuss strategies for supporting his development in the face of his disability. I understand that you want to avoid meltdowns, but approaching this, distracting him with his tablet 24/7 might not be doing him any favours. I don't know where your son is on the spectrum, but there is a very large grey area where he is still capable of learning valuable life skills like chores, family time, etc. that can help him later down the road. Of course, it would be more challenging to do this, but you need to consider what's best for your son. Also, large exposure to technology in general is not great for developing brains. I hope you're able to find the support and resources that you need. If the school is unable to help him, which any public school should, assuming you're in the States, check your local community resources as well. And Cario10 says, I mean, not the arsehole, but I think it's kind of sad that how he never participates in family time with his cousins. Having a kid glued to a screen 24/7 doesn't seem very healthy to me, in my opinion. And PGMST says, not the arsehole. She cannot make your son's rules, and his disability makes it hard to change routine. Trying to make a few changes is one thing, but the whole routine is never going to work. Stick to your guns. Now, I turn it to you guys. How do you think that OP should handle this situation? Do you think that this child should be abiding to the rules set in the house now, or do you think they should have their own set of rules? Or they should come up with a compromise together and work to this together? That is obviously going to be the best way, but it might not always work out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. Once again guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories, and if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. A huge thank you for being here today. It is really appreciated as always, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys. Much love.